Well, we don't think they are working in a proper way, and that's why we've announced this package to ensure value for money, greater supervision of these contracts, better transparency, and a better system to apply for, award, and indeed supervise these public contracts.
You say wastage is currently costing the taxpayer millions of pounds. Can you give us an example?
The schools contract is worth at least 50 million. It might be more than that by the time you end up. There needs to be proper systems in place to ensure value for money, because when you look at the use of taxpayers' money, you can very quickly end up in contracts that are originally awarded for a sum of, say, 50 million, suddenly ending up at costing the taxpayer 70 or 80 million. That is something that we need to address through better pricing, through better supervision, ensuring that subcontracts only happen if they have permission of this new value for money team that we want to, we've announced as part of our policy that we would do in government, and ensuring that on the trickle down of subcontractors, that there is proper supervision of all those entities.
And you're committing yourself now to, should the GSD enter government, hold public meetings where the award of such tenders is discussed and the decisions are explained?
Yes, we will have an allocation board that will meet monthly. It will meet in public. It will explain its decisions. It will publish who the successful tenderers are, but it will also publish who the unsuccessful tenderers are. There will be an online and searchable website with all this information, and there will be monthly public meetings of the allocation board. It will not contain ministers, and it will be subject to a revised criteria which will ensure transparency and conflicts of interest being declared in the open.
Well, this is one part of a whole series of policies in respect of public finance. I've been talking, certainly in the last 3 years, about the management of just public finances as a whole, our levels of debt, the level of transparency and disclosure by the government as to how our money is being spent. But key to all this is obviously how public contracts are awarded and how public money is spent. And I think it's absolutely right that we focus on value for money. And value for money is they normally call it the 3 E's: economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. And you've got to tick all 3 boxes in order to say, look, we've achieved value for money. And if you achieve value for money in the public sector, then everything else will follow.
The government has said in the House that, for example, on the schools, because the tender process was run through a government company, that it was not bound by the EU procurement rules. What we are binding ourselves as a matter of policy today is to ensure that the new procurement and supervision rules will apply to all government entities, statutory bodies, and all government companies, for example JBS. It will also apply to all statutory bodies like GHA or any other statutory body.
This is not a comment on how well, for example, civil servants at procurement are doing their jobs.
No, not at all. Not at all. What we're looking at is ensuring that throughout the process that we can be certain that what we are getting out at the end is good value for the taxpayer.
What would you say to anyone watching this thinking that perhaps these policies would bring about too much bureaucracy?
Well, it's funny because that's the sort of argument the current government uses whenever we try and talk about transparency. Public Accounts Committee, we remember famously the Chief Minister said Gibraltar will come grinding to a halt. Well, this happens in the rest of the world, and the rest of the world doesn't grind to a halt. So if the suggestion is transparency creates bureaucracy, I don't subscribe to that view.
This is about your money, and this is about ensuring that the money that we take out of your pocket, that is the taxpayer's money, and is then used to pay for these contracts, is used wisely. We want to ensure value for money.